Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. Today is June 29th. I'm sorry, it's June 30th, 11:02 a.m. We're here for our weekly business meeting. Please join me in a brief moment of silence. Thank you very much. I also want to take a personal point of privilege and um, wish everyone a happy 4th of July weekend. It's an awesome opportunity to live in America and exercise the freedoms that we have. So enjoy your 4th and be safe. Let's take roll. Here in the hearing room, we have Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Powers. For the first time in a long time, we have some friends on the dais. Commissioner Caston, Commissioner Williams, and Vice Chair Belzer. I guess as time goes on, maybe we'll get all 7 commissioners up here, but right now we're still practicing social distancing. Attorney Butler, would you please read the agenda?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, other members of the commission. The first order of business would be to set the next regular commission business meeting, and staff would recommend that we do so on Wednesday, July 14th, 2021 at 11 a.m.
All right, Wednesday, July 14th, 11 a.m. is the next commission business meeting.
All right. Thank you, sir. And if we are ready, we can move to the commission administrative agenda. Item number 1, we have with us today some guests. We have Mr. Christopher Kuhn, who is the commission appointee to the South Carolina Emergency Rental Assistance Program Advisory Panel. And Mr. Kuhn is here with some associates to give the commission an update on customer outreach efforts of the South Carolina Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So, Mr. Kuhn.
Thank you, Attorney Butler. Attorney Kuhn, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the commission. It's a real honor to be here with you today. I have been general counsel for the electric cooperatives for about 15 years, but I believe this is my first opportunity to appear before most of you and maybe all of you. So it is a real blessing to be here with you today, and I really want to thank you for the invitation. But I'm not here today as attorney for the electric cooperatives. I'm here as your appointee to the state's Emergency Rental Assistance Programs Advisory Panel. And I've brought some really impressive folks with me to help brief you and bring you up to speed on this program. What I'd like to do with your permission is just take a quick moment to outline our presentation and introduce some folks to you. As you probably know, the General Assembly has chosen the state's Housing, Financing, and Development Authority to administer the program. I just call it housing. I had to read that so I would remember. But the folks at Housing have been incredible, and I've got 2 people with me here in the room today that are going to help present. This is Chris Winston to my right, to your left, and then Renee Long is directly behind me. Both of them serve as media and market engagement managers at Housing. As you also probably know, the General Assembly asked Housing to select an outside consultant to help get the program up and running, and the consultant that was chosen was Guidehouse. We've got some folks who are going to be joining us remotely from Guidehouse, and I just want to quickly introduce them to you. You're going to be hearing from Ryan Mullen, who's an Associate Director for State and Local Government at Guidehouse. You're going to hear from Malcolm Clark, who serves as a senior consultant at Guidehouse. And then Vinod Ramachandran, who serves as Director for State and Local Government as well. Finally, I've asked 2 folks from Duke and Dominion to present today on their outreach efforts. You're going to hear from Christina Freeman. She is Dominion's Manager for Customer Assistance, and Nancy Lohr, who is Duke's Managing Director of Customer Experience Strategy. And I want to note that by including folks from Duke and Dominion, I don't mean to suggest that other providers around the state aren't doing just as good a job. Because I believe there are. But I have a very specific reason that I asked the 2 of them to come, and I want to quickly share it with you. When you all opened yourself up for nominations for this position, you got a lot of really good candidates. There was no way you could go wrong. You could have picked any of us, and it would have turned out okay. And that includes Nancy and Christina. I want you to know, as soon as I was appointed, they both reached out to me independently of each other and asked how they could help. And they have helped. They've been incredibly helpful. And to be honest, we've really been working as a team. So I just wanted you to know that. you kind of got 3 for the price of 1. So that's always good. So they're going to be talking about outreach efforts at their companies. I want to make one more important comment before I turn it over to the experts. I've gotten to know all of these folks really well in the last 2 months. And from my perspective, at least, I've concluded that they're all committed to excellence. And I use those words, committed to excellence, very purposeful and very deliberate. Because the older I've gotten, and you probably found the same thing, the older I've gotten, I find that it's sort of a special joy to work with people who are committed to excellence. I mean, it really is. It's a blessing. And so it's really been nice to learn that that's the case with all these folks. They've all been very passionate and dedicated. It's not just a job; it's a cause to each one of them, and that's really what you want people to approach this, and highly competent. So I think we've got the right team, and that's important. That's good. But you're going to hear a constant theme from all of us, and that is that as we sit here today, we are not on pace to distribute all of this money by September 30th. And that's just the numbers. I mean, that's just what the numbers say. That's where we are. And so, candidly, I think you're going to hear from all of us some frustration, maybe some confoundment that is the case. You're going to hear some theories about why that might be what we're dealing with, not just in South Carolina, by the way, but this is a challenge around the country. And you'll hear some comments and some ideas about how we could perhaps increase our outreach, ways we could perhaps streamline the application process, and maybe even open up the application process to additional people, which is what I'm really focused on. But it's confounding to us because we all believe, I believe, there are people out there who are struggling who could really use this help. And we've got to find a way to get to them and to get the help to them that they need. So in many of those cases, the things we're working on, we need some help from external sources that we don't control. Like, for example, the U.S. Treasury Department. We don't control, but we may be able to influence. And that's going to be a real focus of all of us as we move forward in the next several months. So that's my introduction. I want to thank you all again for inviting us and letting us be here today with you. I'm going to turn it over to the folks at Guidehouse who are joining us remotely. I think Vinod is going first. I would just ask each speaker, if you could, please identify yourself for the record before you start speaking. So Vinod, I'll pass it to you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the kind words, Chris. To introduce myself, my name is Vinod Ramachandran. I'm a director with the Guidehouse state and local government team. I've had the privilege of working with the state of South Carolina, with the Department of Administration prior to this, in helping to distribute over the $1.9 billion CRF funds. And it's a great privilege to also be able to assist the state in this really vital and important program. Also want to thank Mr. Kuhn and the Commission for the opportunity to be here with you all today. I also hope everyone can hear me okay. If at any point you can't see or hear me, please absolutely feel free to interject. We will stop and get the technical issues fixed. So with that said, Malcolm, I think if you can move to slide 3, we can start with like a very quick overview of the program. Fantastic. All right. So as Chris mentioned, we are working on administering the funds for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Along with SC Housing, we've called this program SC Stay Plus. We've got over $272 million of federal funding available to assist renter households that have been impacted adversely by COVID-19. When we created this deck last week, we had over 7,050 applications and $31 million requested. As of this morning, that number is up. We've got almost 8,300 households as of this point. And I believe the total funds requested is as high as 33.5 million right now. It's still just a drop in the bucket compared to the entire $271 million that's available. But the program's been live now for almost 7 or 8 weeks, and we're now at $33 million. So who qualifies for this program? we've got some criteria down there for like COVID-19 financial help. The applicants who have been, who qualify for unemployment, who've experienced reduction in household income or incurred significant costs as a result of COVID-19, and at our risk for homelessness or housing instability, are, can avail these funds. More importantly, we really want to serve the population that really requires these funds. So the additional criteria is that their household income should be at or below 80% of the average median income. Next slide. So just to go a little bit deeper into who's eligible, an eligible applicant must be a renter who's obligated to pay rent on a residential dwelling in the state of South Carolina. Any other state is not accepted for this bucket of funds. Number two is that they need to be at risk of housing instability. So they need at least one member of the household must demonstrate the risk that they're going to experience homelessness or instability, if they've not already experienced it, are at risk of experiencing it. We talked about the area median income. That's the third requirement. The income must meet the federal requirements and be at or below 80%. And finally, at least one household member should have experienced financial hardship, which includes, but is not limited to, qualifying for unemployment, must have experienced a reduction in income, or must have incurred significant costs or other financial hardship due to COVID-19. Next slide. We also wanted to give you a quick heads up of what kind of funding is available. The three big buckets, and there are additional buckets, but the three big buckets are really up to 12 months of rental arrears that's been brought upon by COVID-19 instability. We're also allowing 3 additional months of prospective rent assistance. So it's not just the rent that you owe, it's also 3 additional months of rent in the future, so that the applicant has time to get more stable. We're also reimbursing for any utility or energy costs. These are paid directly to the utility companies for any past due utility and energy costs. Next slide. Obviously, in order to stay aligned with the federal guidelines, we do need to have some kind of documentation that's provided by the applicants in order to approve their applications. There's 5 big buckets. What we wanted to do was, we realized that documentation can be a challenge for a lot of applicants. So we provided a bunch of different documents that they could provide under each category. The big 5 categories, we need some kind of identification to confirm that the applicant is indeed who they are. A proof of having a lease, just to make sure that they are actually in a residential property in South Carolina. We do want to emphasize here that even if an applicant does not have a formal signed lease, we are still allowing them to apply to the program, and then we will work with them and try to gather different kinds of information that shows that they are paying rent. We do want, as the third category, some proof of experiencing homelessness and housing instability. This could include an eviction notice, a past due utility or rent notice, or some kind of attestation that they're living in unsafe, unhealthy conditions that increase their risk. The fourth category is proof of income. As you can see, there's a variety of information that we will accept there. At the easiest one being a pay stub, but we will also accept other kind of information such as an SSA benefit letter or information letters from due that shows that they had unemployment benefits. And finally, we do want to understand if they can provide any kind of documentation for household income instability. These are the 5 main documentation types that we require. And like I mentioned before, just want to highlight that we will accept multiple kinds of documentation. We don't want to be very prescriptive with what document they provide, but we do need to make sure that some kind of proof is provided to us, so that when the Treasury comes back and audits the way we've done this program, there's no clawbacks and there's no risk to the state in having to return any funds as a result of any audit findings. Next slide. I did mention we had 3 big buckets of reimbursements and funding, but there are other allowable housing expenses that we will review and provide funding for. This includes any kind of unplanned or additional housing fees and expenses. What we've seen a lot here is some moving expenses. So that seems to be the most common category here. We're also allowing reimbursement for any reasonable accrued late fees. So as long as it's not already covered as part of the rental or the utility areas that they submitted. In some cases, we're also aware that applicants, may have to move to a hotel or a motel in order to avail some kind of temporary living conditions. Again, this is covered as part of the program. And finally, any kind of legal aid or other justified housing instability expenses, legal fees being the one that we've seen most commonly on this topic. Again, we do need some kind of documentation for us to be able to confirm that these expenses were availed by the applicant. So that's the footnote that you see on the slide. Next slide. Going back to what Mr. Kuhn mentioned right up front, we're happy with the progress we've made, but we're not satisfied. The Act mandates that we spend 100% of the funds, or we obligate 100% of the funds by September 30th. As you can see, 33 million out of 270 is barely 13 to 15%, and we've got a long way to go before we get to that 100% obligation. I did want to kind of talk about some of the challenges that we're seeing so far. The first one is documentation. At submission, close to 95% of the applicants do not have sufficient documentation. 90% of the applicants almost have no documentation associated with the applications. As of now, we have not denied any applications that have not provided us with sufficient documentation. We're exploring avenues to reduce the documentation requirements without being penalized by a future audit as well. So we're working with our legal counsel to determine some solutions to that. The second big challenge has been landlord participation. The program does require that we reimburse landlords directly, and we do want to work with the landlords and the property managers to effectively distribute the funds. Some landlords, despite some of the eviction moratoriums federally, have chosen not to participate in the program and chosen to evict tenants. So that's another challenge. We've been working with landlords directly when we've heard about these situations to kind of get some more time before, in order for our team to have the ability to process the application and reimburse the landlord. And finally, I think this is the biggest challenge that we have is the application rates. It's much lower than we had anticipated. We were expecting to be closer to like 30 to 40% of having received applications worth 30 to 40% of the funding at this point, and we're barely at 15%. So it does put our ability to obligate the entire percentage of funds by September 30th at risk. We are embarking on various communication initiatives, which I know Chris and Renee will talk about in just a few slides. And we're also working with various community partners and trying to start working on multiple outreach programs in order to make sure that we can increase the application rate and get sufficient applications so that we can distribute the entire pot of money. Next slide. Finally, just another quick point is there are 46 counties, but this SC State Plus program only serves 39 counties. The other 7 counties received their own funding. That said, really want to compliment SC Housing for coming up with the no wrong door approach. Even if someone from one of these 7 counties applies to our program, we work with them and redirect them to the appropriate program. We are working with all of these other programs as well, coordinating with them to understand where they are with their intake, with their policies, as well as with their overall numbers, so that we can collaborate with them and we can make sure that all the constituents within the state, irrespective of the program, are served appropriately. With that, I'll pause and pass it over to Chris for your slides.
Thank you, Vinod. I appreciate that. Thank you to the Public Service Commission for allowing us to come, SC Housing, to come and discuss this with you today. As my friend Mr. Kuhn said earlier, this has been a great experience, and a lot of people committed to it. Great partnerships for the utility partners that we've been working with, and really appreciate that. So when we look at our marketing and outreach strategy and what we're doing to make sure more tenants, landlords, utility customers across the state are aware of the program, we've really focused on making sure all the information is easy to find, easy to access, and easy to understand. So Malcolm, we get a chance to share your slides. I'll start walking through some of the slides here and share some of this information. So first of all, it's
Mr. Winston,
yes.
could I ask you to pull your microphone a little bit closer?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you very
I'm sorry
much.
to interrupt.
No, that's great. I appreciate it. Spreading program awareness, right? So making sure that we use text, photos, graphics, the infographics you've seen already shared in some of the presentation already. Make sure we have a variety of ways to make people aware of the program, and make sure they know what they need to share, what documentation is available, how to participate, whether it's online, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email address, who's eligible. All those buckets you've seen earlier, we've made sure to represent those things in a variety of formats so that people can easily understand and find that information. Accessibility, we've made sure that not only online, offline, make sure it's in English and Spanish, make sure we have call centers available for our programs. All the materials on our website, et cetera, flyers are all available in multiple languages as well for both the tenants and the landlords. Support and assistance. Again, utilizing data, as you've seen from Vinod's presentation, there's no shortage of information we have about the program and its performance, and allows us to look at SC Housing data. Where should we expect to receive applications from? Where are we not receiving applications from? And what can we do to really focus on those areas? And we've identified several counties that we've gone back into to look for more community partnerships, more media outreach, et cetera, to try to boost participation in those counties. And then those great community partners, as I think Chris and Vinod mentioned, so important for us to reach out to folks across the spectrum. Community organizations are already working with many of the tenants and landlords who we want to be reaching out with this program. So traditionally, you go through media engagement on the next slide. You talk about paid media. We, in the last few weeks, have started a billboard campaign. We've been events and supporting events that already are going on in communities. Dominion and Duke and others, food share programs have been doing special events. Next week, about 13 to 15,000 low-income renters across the state are going to receive mailers from us. We have radio PSAs that have been out for the past month. We've done a lot of interviews, a lot of news coverage, a lot of stories in papers, radio stations, TV stations across the state, online publications about the program, press releases, both ours and in conjunction with other community organizations and utility companies. As I mentioned, not only looking at media and traditional media, but also online, sharing a lot of information on our social media channels, providing information for others to share it on their social media channels. The website, we've sent out 20,000 emails about the program to partners that we have and others have shared with us through the program. And we developed one thing we're excited about, the community outreach toolkit that we push those partners to go to on our website, where it has all those graphics, all that information, and encourage folks to share that whenever they can. Offline, we have just started a broadcast media ad campaign that's playing in the 4 major media markets in South Carolina. We've distributed 8,000 print flyers at this point and are still working on getting those out into the community with community partners. And as I mentioned several times, the graphics. The next slide just shows you some of the examples of these pieces. Social media posts, press release going out, the English version of the flyer here, which again has those what's available, how to apply, the phone number, as well as the email address, and a QR code for our more tech-savvy renters. Can just scan that and get directly to the application portal. So when we look at our community partners, I have a list here, about 235 community organizations, nonprofits, associations, religious organizations, houses of faith, military, legal, government, state, county, local governments across the state that we've proactively reached out to in the last few weeks since the presentation, since the program has started. Healthcare organizations, legal services, several of them are landlord associations, great partnership with the South Carolina Association of Realtors and Nick Cremitis, the South Carolina Apartment Association. We've done some work with several of the local real estate associations, Low Country Property Managers Association, Metrolina, Real Estate, Upstate Carolina Real Estate Investors, anyone who can be assumed or may be involved in the rental industry in South Carolina. We've tried to reach out to them. There's about 4,000 landlords that are part of a system we use at SC Housing for a housing search for low-income renters. We've communicated with them with multiple emails as well, making them aware of the program, showing them the ability as a landlord to refer their tenants to the program. The applications have to come from the tenants, but the landlords can start that process by putting in some basic information about their tenants. Tourism advocates are, you'll see at the end, those are associations. Obviously, we know that were very hard hit by the pandemic. Restaurant associations, tourism, retail, a lot of folks who might have be returning to their jobs now, but may have lost significant income over the past year because of the pandemic. We wanted to make sure they were aware so they could let their members and employees across the state know about the program as well. Wanted to highlight a couple of the really innovative community outreach pieces we've been really happy with. Our outreach in partnership with homeless advocates, groups who are really advocating for folks to prevent homelessness or people who may have fallen into housing instability in the past year. As I mentioned already, the real estate agents and realtors groups across the state. The SC Realtors has been running a paid campaign on social media since June with video ads targeting potential renters and landlords across the state with information about the program. We've done some great community events. We have a tent and a little bit of a road show that we've done at some Latino festivals, Juneteenth Festival. We have a rodeo coming up in Easley that we're excited about. I'm hoping you can all join us for. And I really wanted to highlight a couple of counties that have really stepped up and really supported. Williamsburg saw the program. They saw from us a low participation rate down in Williamsburg County. And they said that we know what we need to do to connect with our county. And for the past 2 weeks, they turned into a phone bank and allowed folks to come into their offices in Williamsburg County and provided help and assistance to them to get applications in. So really excited about that. Beaufort's also looking at how they can utilize their communication tools down in Beaufort County to make more people aware of the program down in that part of the state as well. Really excited about the upcoming communications activities, a lot of community outreach that we continue to do, but some of the big ones that we're expecting to really have an impact on the program. Last Thursday, as I mentioned, TV ads across the 4 of the major networks in the Greenville, Spartanburg, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and Columbia areas. As of tomorrow, those also roll into PSA's public service announcements that'll not just appear on those TV stations, but be available for other broadcast stations across the state to use as well. We've been doing radio PSAs for the last month, but this starts the television portion of that. Direct mail, as I mentioned, about 13,000 of those will go out next week. Today, as we speak, there are 61,000 renters across the state receiving text messages through a partnership we have with an organization that allows us to directly reach folks who we believe qualify income-wise and are renters. That's the first of 2 direct text messages we will be sending out to those folks in the next 2 months. And then again, more in-person events, joining folks like Food Share up in Lawrence County, joining our friends at Duke and Dominion at events that they're doing, community outreach events that they're participating in. So that's a quick highlight of the organizations. I'll be happy to share. We keep track of all these outreach efforts, not only by the type of association they are and how we've reached out to them, but also specifically by county. And I will point out that at this point, I think we have at least 6 different pieces of outreach, 6 different partners we've reached out to and shared information with or discussed it with in each of the 39 counties. We're excited about that. We're going to continue drilling down on the data, looking where we need more applications or where we would expect to get more applications and reaching out more in those areas. Billboards continue to grow. We started out with 15 2 weeks ago. We're up to 34 billboards now in those 39 counties I didn't specifically call that out. We're hoping that when you combine the radio and the television and the billboard and maybe some website, maybe some folks sharing stuff on social media, people will reach a critical mass of hearing about the program, understanding enough details of the program. We'll start looking out for the information, be able to find it or call into our call center and get their applications going. So that's our marketing and outreach efforts to date, and a little preview of what we're going to be doing in the next few weeks. And I'd love to turn it over to, I believe, Christina Freeman now with Dominion to discuss the great partnership and support we've had from the utility companies.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Christina Freeman. I'm manager of customer assistance programs for Dominion Energy. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear before you remotely today to share some of what Dominion Energy has been doing in terms of customer assistance and community outreach in support of the SC Stay Plus program. I also want to take a moment to echo Chris Coons' comments on the privilege I've had of working with my peer utility partners throughout this process, as well as SC Housing. I greatly appreciate that opportunity. At the start of May, Dominion Energy joined forces with SC Housing to launch communications related to the SC Stay Plus program for customers within our service territory. We began working with customers that provided information to us to notify us that they were going through the application process to receive assistance through this program for their Dominion Energy bill. And so with that in mind, we extended payment due dates for those customers to allow time to present the documentation needed and for the state to review the payment process. Additionally, we've been working very closely at many community outreach events. Specifically during the month of May, we have completed a total of 15 outreach events where we have been able to directly share information related to the Stay Plus program with our customers and community members. Based on those 15 events, we have reached approximately 1,400 community members. And some of the pictures I've added to this slide today show you a little bit about that outreach. These were two events that took place, one in Hampton County, one in Greenwood County. The one with the van in the background is an outreach event that Dominion conducted where we were in Hampton County providing information on our neighborhood energy efficiency program. We utilized that opportunity to leverage the ability to share information related to the SC Stay Plus program as well. We shared flyers with those community members that came seeking assistance on their energy bill. We were able to provide information on the application process and how to connect directly with SC Housing and the SC Stay Plus application to start that process. The other two photos show us at outreach events in Greenwood County, where we participated in drive-up assistance events, so we could personally hand flyers to the community about the SC Stay Plus program and help answer questions related to the program, as well as walk-up events where we were interacting in person with customers and the community to share information. Recognizing that one of the first touch points that many of our customers may look for to gain information about utility bill assistance is our website. We also took that opportunity to load content on our customer assistance page directly speaking to the SC Stay Plus program. So as customers came to our customer assistance page to review information on payment arrangements, they were quickly able to see information also associated with available rent assistance as well as utility assistance through this program. Click on a link and be taken directly to the application portal for SC Stay Plus. As Chris and both Chris and Chris mentioned, we also partnered with SC Housing in June, where a member of our communications team worked closely with Chris Winston from SC Housing on a joint press release between Dominion and SC Housing, both in English and Spanish, that was shared at the start of June with our media outlets. And we also have bill messaging planned and in queue now for on-bill messaging directly to residential customers during the months of July and August, specifically speaking and providing information about SC Stay Plus. Next slide, please. Also, during the summer months, Dominion Energy has launched a summer communications campaign that's running from June through September. Our primary goal with this campaign is to ultimately reach at least 1 million people in the community. We're doing that through a variety of channels. We began in June with the launch of a radio blitz through a 2-week radio advertisement spot, beginning with WWDM-FM here in Columbia, as well as Sumter's Urban R&B station. But in addition to that, we're also placing supplemental radio ads through other channels such as iHeartRadio and Cumulus Radio, where we recognize those channels go beyond metro hubs. They have a broader demographic and can help us reach into more urban areas where this information may be well received and desperately needed. In addition, we've also invested in native article advertisements and targeted display advertisements. So with native article advertisements, this allows us to essentially provide information directly related not only to customer assistance, but specific links embedded in those articles that will tie individuals back to our customer assistance page, where they can connect from there to the SC Stay Plus program portal and application. With targeted display ads, we're able to reach Dominion Energy customers who have identified as low to moderate income and directly reach them through sponsored ads and content. And so the next slide will show you a few examples of what that looks like. Here you can see with the Reader's Digest, the bigger graphic, that's an example of one of our native articles. So as individuals read through available energy assistance, there are direct links there to connect them to the program. They can also see the We're Here to Help banners, which if they click on those, it's again direct information to our events calendar, SC Stay Plus program, as well as assistance options. We do recognize that one size does not fit all when it comes to communication, so we are thinking more broadly, and we're also making sure to utilize our social media channels where we can promote in-person events to share information on SC Stay Plus and speak directly with those who may not have access to the internet so that we can provide those services as well. Next slide, please. And lastly, I just wanted to give you an example of the earned media through the joint press release that we conducted. As you can see here, there's a wide variety of coverage where this story was picked up through a number of digital and print channels across the state, as well as broadcast television. And in parentheses, you'll see the dates where those aired, as well as readership and viewership for those areas that picked up on that story for us. But we also look to partner with trusted community resources. And recently, Katie Watson from our communications team partnered with Renee Long on the Coping with COVID show hosted by Trey Taylor. Ms. Taylor is a trusted voice in the community, has been speaking about COVID-related issues since the beginning of the pandemic, and we were able to share information specifically, not only with Dominion Energy customers, but with a broad base related to bill payment assistance through this program. I'm happy to turn it over to my colleague at Duke Energy to share the work that they've been doing as well. Nancy?
Thank you, Christina. Good afternoon, commissioners, and I also want to echo my thank you for the opportunity to work with these wonderful people. My name is Nancy Lohr, and I'm the managing director of customer experience. My position was created a year and a half ago when the pandemic hit, and we just knew we needed to have a sole focus on what we're calling our vulnerable customers. Understanding who they are, how to meet them where they are, and really had to do to outreach and everything we could to make sure that we can give them as good of an experience through this pandemic as possible. I keep thinking about how a lot of us are returning to normal right now, but for a lot of the vulnerable customers out there, it's still not normal. It is not going to be for a long time. So everything we can do to focus on their needs to help them is really what my sole purpose is. And I'd also like to really thank Chris and Christina. As he said, we've become like a threesome, but it's become a labor of love for the three of us. And we jump on the phone periodically. Chris is always available. And I don't ever think any of us have ever said no to just getting together, to helping to share best practices, and do the outreach that we're about to talk about. And also, it's been a pleasure to work with Guidehouse. And I work across all of our footprints, and I really do want to commend South Carolina for the model that you're putting in place and the focus that you're putting in place of these vulnerable customers. So it really is a great model to see. I hope that others around the country will take part and take note in what you're doing. A lot of what you're going to hear now with us is the same type of outreaches that you heard from Dominion, the same types of things that Guidepost is doing, or Guidehouse, I'm sorry. But just really getting out and getting the message as to how these customers can, get these dollars and hopefully wake up in the morning feeling a lot better, that they don't have to worry about rent and electricity. The one thing that we quite a few things, but I'll start with one of the things that we did right out of the chute was our president, Mike Callahan, sent out a newsletter talking about SC Stay Plus to around 360,000 customers. On top of that, we tweeted the link to SC Stay Plus to all of the same customers, so 367,000, or we tweeted. And then, we offered extended payment arrangements. We continue to do everything we can to help our customers through this hard time. So we've trained all of our customer service reps to be empathetic, to understand the needs of our customers, and to really connect them in any way they can to the help. I think Christina mentioned and the Chris's have mentioned that a lot of our customers don't have access to technology, and they don't really some of them don't understand the application process. So as much as we can do to help them fill out applications and just help them through this process is what we want to do and what we all need to be doing. And we've also done flyers in both Spanish and English, and continuing to work with agencies out there. We actually developed another department. It's a centralized agency department, which focuses just on the nonprofits that are reaching out, so that we can give them special attention as well and have a portal that they can use. They will be one of the communication departments that SC Stay Plus can use if they're having issues. Questions. It just gives another layer of assistance to our customers. So next slide, please. So what we're doing is what we're calling all hands on deck for our SC Stay Plus. So all of our South Carolina employees will understand what the mission is, and that mission is really to get out and help our vulnerable customers. We'll continue to do outbound text messages. We are really going to get much more focused and much more targeted. I think Christina mentioned that as well. But really targeting the messages to the right to the right people in the right places. I keep saying meeting customers where they are. It's really getting out and understanding where are our customers at? Where can we meet them? How can we partner with them? How do we just peel that onion back to reach those customers that don't have access to cable and news? We don't have newspapers anymore. So how do we really reach customers that don't go on social media? So it's what I call peeling back that onion to find out where they are and how to reach them. Continuing to press releases. earned media, paid media, any type of outreaches that we can do to continue to drive customers to fill out applications and take advantage of these dollars. Also, just when customers call in to our phone center, to have the IVR with the right messages and to be able to direct them to the right places. And also, again, I'll just mention our customer service reps are really good at listening to the customer, understanding what their needs are, and trying to satisfy and direct them to that right place. And then again, radio advertisements, and just continuing all the channels as much as we can. And we are making some real commitments on the pop-ups and the outreach. Last night, I almost threw it in the presentation, but was getting emails. We did one of our community relations managers did a pop-up last night that was extremely successful. And they were just so excited to be able to help our customers. And it was really exciting for me to see all the different pictures they were sending, and we got some real good results out of that one. So it is really just continuing all the efforts as a team, and continuing to work as a team and be transparent. And again, I'm really looking forward to continuing this process that you all have set in place. Again, I thank you for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to work in partnership with this initiative.
Thank you, Nancy. Well, I will bring us home, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say just a couple quick things about our outreach efforts at the electric cooperatives. I don't want to sound repetitive. We're doing a lot of the same things that Duke and Dominion is doing, but I wanted to let you know in the upcoming issue of South Carolina Living Magazine, we're going to have a blurb on the program. Our magazine actually has the widest circulation of any magazine in the state, so it's a really good tool for getting information to our customers and our members. So we will be doing that next month. But I really want to conclude by making a very specific point to you that at least illustrates where my mind is right now. So Malcolm, if you could get us back to the PowerPoint. Governor McMaster sent a letter back in May of 2020, and I know you can't read this, but it was fairly early in the pandemic. We didn't know it at the time, but May was pretty early. And if you could go to the next slide, Malcolm, there's one sentence in particular that I want to draw your attention to. By the way, the letter was from Governor McMaster to Nanette Edwards at ORS, and I think we all got copies of it. But basically what he's saying in this letter is, hey, we need to be careful. We've done the right thing early in the pandemic by suspending disconnections for non-payment. We didn't want people to lose their power while they were dealing with the crisis. That was the right thing to do. But he's pointing out here to all of us, we need to make sure that we deal with the crisis that may come at the end of the crisis. Because the longer people go without paying their power bills, for some people, they're going to create a hole that's going to be very hard to dig out of. And I think our state was one of the first in the country to really start to focus on this. And I think you all had a hand in that as well. So what the governor is saying here to all of the electric providers is, guys, y'all need to start working on that right now. We've got a long way to go. We know there's help that's coming from the federal government, but let's start working with our customers to make sure that people don't get into a hole that is too deep for them to dig out of. So the electric cooperatives, we took that to heart. A lot of our co-ops started contacting each member directly and working it out. In some cases, we negotiated payment plans. We negotiated extended payment plans beyond what we usually do. A lot of people paid their bill. They said, we appreciated this. We were able to hold this money to the side just in case we lost our job or had some other challenge because of the pandemic, but we're okay now, and they got up to speed on their bill. So it was a good thing, and it was good that South Carolina collectively chose to do that. But if you look at this last slide, this is kind of the point I'm building to. We did an analysis at the end of 2020 to determine where we were in terms of delinquencies. And what we found out was a bit of a surprise. We found out that for the co-ops, at least, the end of 2020 was almost identical to where we ended up at the end of 2019. In fact, we were even a little bit better than where we were the year before. And the reason I point that out is because it's really easy to look at something like that, to look at a chart like that and draw the wrong conclusion. You could look at that and say, well, maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's why we're not seeing a lot of applications Maybe it's because people don't need help. And the reason I think this is such a good illustration is because it doesn't show prepaid customers. And I think most of you know what I mean when I say prepaid. Some people call it advance pay or pay as you go, but it's been a very popular option among co-op members. It kind of works like your gas tank in your car. You know, you fill your tank up, and as you drive, the gas goes down, and if you get down to zero, the car stops working. So before that happens, you go to the gas station and you fill it up. Maybe you put $4 in to get you to the next paycheck. But it's the same idea with prepay. These customers don't have to pay a deposit, and they essentially pay in advance for their power, and then they're able to monitor their power usage. So as it gets down to zero, sometimes they change their behavior and they conserve power. They can come in and they can pay $2 or $3 or $4, $10 to get them perhaps to the next paycheck. But it's been a really popular program. But the chart I showed you showed people that were in arrears. And if you think about it, if you're a prepay customer, that never happens. Because when you get down to zero, the power is automatically disconnected. And then as soon as you put $1, just like when you put $1 of gas in your tank, as soon as you put $1 toward your account, it automatically gets cut back on. So those customers never go into arrears. But my theory, and I think I'm right about this, is that if you look at that population of customers, there's probably a lot of people there that really could use this program. I mean, I think that's probably the population we really need to be focusing on. But you don't see that on that chart. And right now, under the Stay Plus program, we really can't help those people. We can help them with rent. The program allows us to pay 3 months of rent moving forward, which makes sense because if you have a lease agreement, you know how much that's going to be. With power bills, it's a little trickier. But I do think there's a way that we could come up with a mechanism to help these people in advance going forward. And if we can do that, I think that's going to make a tremendous difference in terms of us getting the money to the people that need it. And I think our numbers will improve dramatically. So that's really what I'm focused on right now. And what I'm going to be focused on for the next couple of weeks is trying to get help to our prepaid members. And that's just one example. But I think it's one that kind of illustrates the challenges, but also the possibilities. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, that concludes our prepared remarks, our presentation. I want to thank you again for having us here. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. We're also very happy to receive any remarks or suggestions or thoughts that you might have.
Thank you, Attorney Kuhn, and your team. Great presentation. You all are doing a great job. We amended our agenda, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday morning, so that we could ask some questions. We want to be careful with the questions that we ask to make sure they're general, as not to violate our rules of ex parte communication. So I'm going to open the floor to my colleagues to ask some questions, and I'll start us off. I may have just misunderstood the presentation, but do you have to be a renter to qualify for any assistance at all, including the utility assistance?
Mr. Chairman, that's a great question. And I think the answer is yes under the current program. I would turn to my folks from Guidehouse to see if there's been any discussion of broadening that at other states or at the federal level.
No, this is Vinod. The answer is yes. You do have to be a renter, renting a residential dwelling in the state of South Carolina to be eligible for this program. And that, I believe that's the language in the federal legislation as well. So we are kind of constrained by that rule.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's a great question, and it illustrates, I think, some of the problems that we're trying to work through.
Mm-hmm. How, and the gentleman may be able to answer this question, how is renter defined? And I'll give you a little bit of background. I'm from Aiken County, rural Aiken County, Wagner. And through my experience growing up, I know that there are citizens who have all types of living arrangements. They may not necessarily have a rental agreement. It may be a week-to-week arrangement that's not on paper. So how would they prove that they're a renter?
Again, a great example of when I talk about trying to streamline the documentation process, that's a great example because there are a lot of people like that. And right now we're requiring rental agreements. Vinod, I'm going to kick it to you again because I know y'all have been working on that. Can you share your thoughts?
Absolutely. So we are completely aware that that might be a situation, right? It's not just people may not have like a lease arrangement, but they may just have informal week by week or month by month arrangements. If you look at the slide and the communication material that we've put out, we have encouraged renters to apply for the program, even if that is the case, and we will work with them to find evidence, even if it's not a lease that they can submit as documentation. They can show us past bank transactions or any kind of PayPal or Venmo or Zelle, even if they're using one of these modern apps and not a check to prove that they've actually paid rent. We will accept that kind of documentation as well to make sure that we do help these applicants. Fully cognizant of the fact that not every renter, especially the vulnerable population that we're trying to help, will have that kind of formal documentation. But like we said, we've adopted a no wrong door approach. Even if you don't have that, and if you apply to the program, one of our representatives will call them or will take a proactive call from these applicants to help them through that process. Whatever documentation that they can provide to us that shows us that they are paying some kind of rent to whoever they've got the arrangement with, and the landlord shows that they own that property, we will absolutely make sure that we work with them. I will also add, in some situations, just to make sure that we can avoid some fraud, we do want to make sure that we also talk to the landlord or the person who they're paying rent to, in order to make sure that it is truly a legitimate rental expense before we reimburse them. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir, it does. I have a follow-up question, Attorney Kuhn. It seems like the landlord plays a pretty significant role in this process. Can the landlord apply for the funds for the tenant?
Great question. Yes, sir. They can do that, and that's it's a great thing that the program is allowing us to do. I would like to try to do the same thing with the utility bills part of it. It'd be great if Duke and Dominion and Santee Cooper and the co-ops, electric cities, if we could identify the folks that we know need help from their billing records and just handle it directly, just like we can with the landlords. That'd be a great change, and that's something that I'm working on too. But the answer to your question is yes. And again, I'll ask the Guidehouse guys if they have anything they want to add.
No, you're absolutely right there, Mr. Kuhn. The landlords can apply on behalf of the renter. We do have the ability in the application for the landlord to indicate as such as well, so that we are aware that it is the landlord who's applying. We know not all tenants are aware of the program, and some landlords may be able to help tenants with doing so. So that option is available, and we work. Even if the landlord refers us, we do work with both the landlord and the tenant to make sure that the applicant is reviewed.
Thank you, sir. Attorney Kuhn, you anticipated my next question. If the landlord can apply, why can't the utilities apply? And so when you say you're working on that, is that, I'm not as familiar with the program as you are. I understand this is federal funding and it's pushed through the state, but is that like something that you can actually do? You think you can make that happen to change the rules or to amend the rules to allow utilities to apply on behalf of customers, ratepayers?
I hope so, Mr. Chairman. And I always focus on the utility parts of this. So even though you asked a landlord question, I turned it into an answer about the utilities. But I am really hopeful that we can do that. We call that direct pay is sort of what Nancy and Christina and I have been talking about. That's a place where we're going to need some help from Washington. I think we're going to need something from Treasury telling us that it's okay to do that. Because as Vinod said, we want to make sure that we don't get tripped up on the back end through an audit where we have to pay the money back. So we want to get to the money to the right people, but we want to make sure that that we don't have any liability on the back end. So we are early in that conversation. I think we first started talking about it like toward the end of last week. So we're sort of in the front end of it, but I'm working hard on it, and my goal is to try to get to a point where we can do that, because I think we'll have tremendous success.
Now, you said that the electric cooperatives, and I don't know if you're speaking as a whole or individually, certain cooperatives as opposed to the whole, identified their ratepayers that were behind. Is that something that all the utilities that you're working with, are they doing the same, identifying and contacting those ratepayers that are behind?
Mr. Chairman, I'll answer with regard to the co-ops, and then I'll ask if Christina or Nancy want to address it for Duke and Dominion. So there's 20 different distribution electric cooperatives in the state, and they're all the same. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. They're not all the same. We have a joke that says, if you've seen one co-op, you've seen one co-op. I just botched that, but that's the joke I'm trying to make. So they're all doing it a little differently. Aiken Electric Cooperative, for example, they reached out individually to every single member of the co-op that was behind, that was delinquent. I think some of the other co-ops did it in maybe a more targeted manner, but every co-op in some form or fashion started being very proactive about helping our folks through it. Berkeley Electric Cooperative went ahead and gave security deposits that members had paid, went ahead and gave it to them. Didn't apply to their bill. They said, here's your security deposit back. You decide how you best want to use it. So it was 20 different approaches in the co-op world. But that's appropriate because each one of them serves different territory and different customers and has different challenges. So that's a little flavor about how the co-ops have done it. I'm not sure Christina and Nancy, this probably doesn't fall within their realm of responsibility, but I'll give them a chance if they want to address that.
Sure. I'm happy to take a try at it. It's a great question, Commissioner. And yes, so at Dominion Energy, we do have the ability to identify customers who maybe benefit through this program, through other types of assistance that they have qualified for in the past. Do support the conversation related to direct pay. And what we've done, we began really in March and April with an outbound call campaign to specifically target those customers, to make them aware of additional funding that's available and encourage our customers to seek not only additional information, but apply for that assistance. As Nancy mentioned, we have a great customer service team as well, and my customer assistance team really engages with customers in the community to help them understand all of the funding and resource channels that they have available to them that can help them not only with utility bills, but hopefully other basic needs that they have as well.
So I will echo the same thing, Mr. Chair. It is a great question, and targeting is really a good thing. And I call it the easy button, but as much as we can make it easy for our customers, so if we could target them with a direct link to the application or to the agency that's helping them, that's really what we want to do. So to be very strategic in how we're making these outreaches is important to get the type of numbers and the type of adoption that we all want to see with these dollars.
All right, thank you very much. The last question for me for now, what happens to this money if it's not spent?
Yeah, that's literally the $1 million question, multi-million-dollar question. So under the state act, we are to spend 100% by September 30th. We're not on pace to do that. But under the federal act, the number is 65%. We are supposed to obligate 65% of the money by the end of September. We're not on track to do that either, but I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic now than I was perhaps a week ago. What happens next is a little bit of an open question. My understanding is that there is the potential for a clawback. If we don't obligate that money, the federal government could take it and send it to another state that is perhaps been more successful. Certainly don't want that to happen, and I'm going to work hard to make sure that doesn't happen, because there's plenty of folks in South Carolina I know that are struggling, that need this help. We've been told, and I'm kind of speaking out of school here, but we've been told that there's enough of this challenge in other parts of the country that it's unlikely the money will be directed somewhere else. And I'm hopeful that's the case. We're going to proceed as though that's not the case, though, and we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to keep us from getting into that position. Again, Vinod is the man on this. He's the guy that's really gotten into the weeds, so he can probably perhaps add to that. So, Vinod, anything to share?
I think you captured it accurately there, Mr. Kuhn. You are right that the federal guideline is 65%. It is an open question. If we don't spend that 65% on whether we lose the ability to use those funds. But it is still open. And I know with conversations that we've had with other states where we're helping out, or just based on what we've heard, most of the other states and the other constituencies that receive this funding are likely having similar problems as us. We have a meeting with the other 7 counties later today as well. In our initial conversations with them, some of them did express the same challenge. We'll get a better sense later today on whether that challenge still pertains for these 7 individual counties as well, just to talk about the state of South Carolina. So, but you captured what we know effectively there, Mr. Kuhn.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll tell you, I'll end with this, Attorney Kuhn, and I'm sure those familiar with utility regulation in South Carolina know that any time that this commission has a public hearing as a part of a general rate case or any other case, we hear from hundreds, if not thousands, of ratepayers who struggle to pay their utility bill in good times. And I can't articulate the level of confusion that I have that you still have over $200 million left to distribute to help those in need. Like, I can't, it's mind-boggling. I can't begin to explain how confusing that is, considering the passion and the despair and the frustration that we have witnessed through public testimony before us. I believe that you're going to hit the mark. You sound hopeful, you sound confident, your team is great. So I believe in you, and I pray that we can send this money, or you and your group can send this money to the folks that need it most. Thank you for your leadership and being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're confounded too, but I appreciate those kind words and that support. And we're sure as heck going to do everything we can to get this money to the folks that need it. So thank you for that, and thank you for having us.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Urban.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kuhn, let me thank you and all the participants this morning for your very informative presentation. We appreciate your coming and sharing the information with us. One thing I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned the prepaid customers for the various co-ops around the state. Could you not take the average monthly bill and use that as a basis for giving them 3 months forward help with their bills and apply it to their accounts?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. I agree completely. In fact, that's exactly what I'm pushing for. I think that makes sense. And there's other mechanisms. There's other ways you could sort of calculate what the average bill would be. I mean, you could do it for those months. You could say, well, what did they spend last year on electricity in July, August, and September? There's ways that we could do that. But what you articulated is exactly what what I am advocating, is that we use that as the measure. And just like we do with rent right now, it's the same idea. And so I thank you for that question, and I agree with you completely.
Thank you, and I hope that that you can make that calculation. And in the event that the federal agencies that are they're working with you reject that plan, one fallback option might be to create a trust fund and transfer sufficient funds into the trust fund for these folks to apply, after the bill's incurred. Is that a potential option?
We have not discussed that, or at least I haven't thought about it, but I think it's an outstanding idea. It's a fairly elegant way to go about solving the problem. So I appreciate that suggestion, and we will run it up the flagpole. And if it works, we're going to call it the Commissioner Irvin solution.
Well, I think that what you could do is you could document what your current arrearages are by company, And, you know, it looks like you have probably sufficient funds to cover a large part of it. And that money could be invested in a interest-bearing account, and administered, so that, you know, as people, do incur prepayments, they could apply for reimbursement. So that's just a thought. I have another suggestion for the, investor-owned utilities. And I don't know who's in the best position to answer this, but it seems to me that you already have the data, that you can use to identify delinquent accounts that would qualify under this program. And I commend you, first of all, in your outreach. I think you've cast a large net, and you're going to capture those folks that do have access to computers and social media and the newspapers. Unfortunately, as you know, there are some electric customers that don't have, and gas customers that don't have access to the internet, and they don't follow the media as closely as many of us do. So my question is, could you make a joint application and certify that all these delinquent ratepayers are entitled to have their delinquency paid for from these funds?
Commissioner Irwin, this is Nancy Lohr. Chris alluded to what he called direct pay, and that's an option that I have seen another utility do in another state. And that is a way to do that. It takes a data share. It gets a little complicated with data share agreements and consent. But there are ways that it can be done. It just takes, I think, us all getting to the table, rolling up our sleeves and figuring out how we can do that, because you're absolutely right. There are a lot of folks out there that don't have that technology. They don't have the technology itself or the wherewithal to use it. And so everything we can do to think about this direct pay that Chris brought up, I'm 100% in favor of looking at how we can do that.
Great.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. I echo Nancy's sentiment and comments, and Chris's as well. And what we're doing in the meantime is really focusing on those in-person events to try to reach everyone that may not have that internet access, to try to connect them as much as possible to this funding as well.
Wonderful. And again, I think you're doing an absolutely wonderful job with outreach, but there are going to be some folks that just aren't able to respond due to a number of factors. You know, sadly, there are people that don't even have computers. They don't have cell phones, and they're the type customer that maybe needs the help the most. And so, to the extent that we can capture those accounts, it would seem that you'd have a database of delinquencies, and you could simply certify to Guidehouse that these are legitimate delinquencies, and have the funds transferred directly to the utility to be credited to those accounts. That just seems like something that is common sense. I hope the feds will work with you on that.
You spot on with that, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation today. No further questions, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner questions. Commissioner Caston.
Thank you, Chairman Williams. Mr. Coons, thank you for the presentation. All of you folks did a wonderful job. I want to make sure that I understand the last slide. I think I've heard it called direct pay. Did you say prepaid, direct paid?
Yes, Commissioner. They call it different things at different cooperatives, but prepay, advance pay, or pay as you go. Those are the three ways people usually refer to it.
Is that calculated based on looking at the average annual and then divided over 12 months? Is that the way that's done, or how is that done?
Yes, sir. It's a very different approach to billing altogether. There's not a usual amount that's paid every month. You literally just I'll give you an example. One co-op requires a $100 balance in order to open a prepay account. which is like starting your tank of gas full.
Okay.
And then they start, depending on how much energy they use, that might last a month. It might last 3 weeks. It just sort of depends. And the member is given the opportunity to track their power usage. So they know when they're getting down to zero, and usually we give them some reminders. Hey, you've got $5 left. And then when they want to, they come and they put more money in. So they may put, some members put $200 in every month, just regularly, but it's really up to them. It's not unusual to have someone come into the office and say, I've got $1.50 here I want to put in here. My paycheck is tomorrow, but this will get me through then. And it really, people love these accounts. So that's how it works. It's a very different approach to billing, but has been very popular.
And if they apply anything toward their balance, then they're not in arrears?
Yes, sir. That's correct. So they should never get into arrears because when it gets down to zero, we have the ability to automatically connect and reconnect, disconnect and reconnect remotely.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, but I do want to, I guess, explain one thing. During the early parts of the pandemic, when we were suspending disconnections, and this may be where you were going, Commissioner, some of those did go below zero because we weren't going to turn folks off. And that was a group we were really concerned about because this is a group that it may not take very long for them to get into too deep of a hole to dig out of. That was probably the number one driving force that made us do this. So, well, and the governor did too. By the way, I randomly saw the governor this morning. My daughter had a dentist appointment, and as we were walking out, he was walking in. So it was good that I could tell him that I was going to mention this to him. If you happen to see the governor later today, compliment his teeth because they probably look magnificent. But yes, Chairman, Mr. Commissioner, that's how that works.
All right. So looking at that graph then where it shows this downward trend and, really good at the bottom, that does not reflect or necessarily reflect that everybody's up to snuff and owes nothing. It simply means that it's greater than zero.
Correct. That's right.
They may have a $600 bill, but they just applied $1.50 to it.
Well, okay, that's a good point. Yes. So we reached payment arrangements with our prepay members. So some of them are paying, maybe $25 a month to account for where they went into arrears. That would have showed up in this graph though. I think what you see is that by the end of December last year, even those people had managed to get out of the hole.
Okay.
And I thank you for that question because I should have made those distinctions when I was explaining the graph.
That part did clear that up for me because that's what I had a question on, and it's
Yes, sir.
interesting. And just from a billing point of view, do most of the co-ops typically bill monthly or?
Yes, sir. It's usually monthly, and they have a different billing cycle. So you may be a member of Berkeley Electric Cooperative, and your neighbor may be a member, but you may be on different billable cycles. You may get your bill the first week of the month, and he may get his bill the third week of the month. And that's just sort of for administrative purposes, but it is typically a monthly bill. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for having us.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kuhn, thank you and all the others for the work you do. Something I read the other day that if you enjoy it or if you have a passion, it's not work anymore. And I appreciate your passion and the passion of the other people involved. Like the chairman, I'm from a small town. I originally grew up in Clio, which is in Marlboro County. And it really concerns me, the rural counties, as far as outreach. I think when the TV stuff hits, it will really make a difference and show an incline for what you're trying to do. I think that will reach. I know some of the border counties, probably the Rock Hill area, some of the upstate, low country, and even in the PD, they also get a lot of their coverage from out of the state. I know Beaufort gets theirs from Savannah. That's your stations. You may have Charleston too. I know a lot of the PD area, they get their news from the Charlotte stations, up in the upstate where my daughter lives, most of their stuff comes from Asheville. So I'm certainly not telling anybody I do their business, but it may be reaching out to some of those stations or looking at those demographics may help too as far as reaching those people. One thing that I know from a rural county and having practiced law there for 40 years plus, if you want to get something out in a rural area, you go to the churches. I know we're dealing with federal money, and I don't want to raise some constitutional issue about church and state, but as far as the flyer type and the bulletin type things, some of the leaders in the churches do great work with the poverty, with the food banks and the different things. And I think in the rural counties, both the churches and some of our rural legislators, the one that I know, they're involved in all sorts of things. I've watched representatives like Representative Hennigan, who's been involved with getting the vaccine out with the rural areas and trying to get that knowledge out. And people follow Facebook of legislators and stuff that certainly all of them are willing to and wanting to help. I sitting back here a minute ago, I was saying, well, you might say, come get your vaccine, we'll pay your rent for a month. Combine the programs. But really, it's a great program. But as far as the outreach in the rural areas, that's concerned me as far as the internet, that sort of stuff. I'm like Mr. Commissioner Irvin and the chairman. The TV is going to be a real boost because that's what they're watching. That's certainly where the lawyers are advertising. So I would think that that would be a boost. But it may be an area that's wider than the 5 media outlets we have in South Carolina as far as television that may be helpful. And that's my 2 cents worth, but thank you for your work.
Well, I thank you for that, Commissioner, and I apologize for having my back to you. I forget y'all kind of have me surrounded. So Commissioner Thomas, you too. But I appreciate those remarks. I've actually been to Clio. Not many people can say that, and I know how to pronounce it. I know it gets mispronounced a lot. That too. But it's a great place. You're absolutely right. You have to go to respected voices in each community, and a lot of times that is the church community. So, Chris, I should have been nudging you to give you a heads up. I'm gonna pivot to you and see if you want to address that.
Yeah, I would love to, Commissioner Powers. I really appreciate that. I'll take them one at a time. So when you look at those border counties, absolutely. When you look at the Aiken Edgefield area, when you look at the Beaufort Jasper area, when you look at the York area, you have out-of-state stations that we don't currently have covered from a paid point of view. So we've been doing outreach to them from an earned perspective, trying to get them to do stories. Got text this morning from a Savannah TV reporter who did a story 2 weeks ago. And since she did that story, applications in Beaufort County are up 60%. So things like that will work. We've also chosen those counties for our direct mail initiative because we know we're not reaching them maybe through some of our TV outreach. So we want to make sure that we get as much direct information to those renters as possible, as easily as possible. But we will definitely continue that outreach to those border counties. From the churches, you're absolutely right. We have 3 of my pages here of our outreach initiatives are to religious organizations. We started kind of the statewide level, United Methodist Conference, Diocese of Charleston, South Carolina Baptist Convention. We started at that level, hoping they would trickle it out to their members. But what we've done in the meantime is go into a specific county, look for large houses of faith and communities, and reached out to them as well. And we'll just continue doing that because you're absolutely right. As many of those as we can touch. However they're sharing information, whether it's on Facebook or from the pulpit or wherever it might be, that's a vital area for us. You mentioned legislators. Absolutely. If you hear from anybody who's looking, I've just FedEx 5,000 flyers to Representative Pendarvis, who's promised to help get those out in Dorchester County down in his area. And so looking for those kind of partnerships. That's a vital area that I didn't mention in our list, but lawmakers are absolutely being a very important partner with us on this project. So appreciate the comments, and we will absolutely make sure our friends up in Bennettsville, which is where my dad's family's from, some Marlboro County connection as well. We'll make sure those folks get educated about it and informed as well. So thank you.
Commissioner Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of like to follow up a little bit with some of Commissioner Irwin's comments. He had some real good ideas and suggestions, and And I was kind of thinking along the same direction there. But I guess my point right now is that we here at the Public Service Commission would like to do anything that we can to help. And I don't know, what we can do, but if you all have any ideas, we'd love to hear it. And one thought I had, and I'm not an attorney, so probably can't do this, but if it would be helpful for us to issue an order that kind of, let's just say, mandates the suggestions that Commissioner Irwin came up with, if that gives more legal footing or backing for you all to be able to go in that direction, if that's helpful, or any other suggestions that you might have. I would just say appreciate very, very much what all of you are doing, all of your staff people are doing, and it's important work, and appreciate it very much, and would love for us to be able to do some part. Thank you.
Commissioner, thank you so much for those kind words and that suggestion. We will take a look at that, and there may be a way that the commission can help us stay in between the buoys too, but in a way to help us advance this program. So thank you for that. We will give that some thought, and we'll be back in touch.
Chairman Williams.
Commissioner Williams, you have the
Thank-
floor, ma'am.
Thank you. Attorney Coons, great to see you here, and to everybody else who presented. I'll just add my kudos to all for this program. And thank you for giving us our first experience of a live interaction. It's for those of us that are new to the commission, I appreciate that as well. My tiny thought is one of the things that I think, for example, the Aiken Electric Cooperative has done a fantastic job in a different arena, is through testimonials. And I know you've got to have permission to use them, but I maybe I overlooked hearing you talk about that. But in one lens, this is the government coming to help, and for some people that shuts them down. On the other hand, for someone who has experienced the benefit, that story may make a bigger impact. So that was my tiny addition to what you presented, that asking whether that might be a tool you're already using.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll let Chris take a crack at that.
Absolutely, Commissioner Williams. Thank you very much. Are you a media and market engagement manager in your day life? We had a conversation yesterday with our great friends here at Guidehouse about that exact same thing. Now that payments are going out, we believe a fantastic way to really encourage others to take part is if we can't show them a neighbor, someone else in their community. And so we started the process yesterday of looking at where some people around the state might be who have gotten funding from the program and early approval, and reaching out to them to ask if they'd be willing for us to either share it, even if we don't want to, they don't want to sit down in front of a news crew. That's really intimidating for a lot of folks, including me. But maybe that we just get some comments from them. Maybe they just share something that we can share, a photo, or maybe not, or just some words to show, here's somebody, here's where they were, here's how the program helped them. We believe that's can be a tremendous asset for us. It will absolutely be part of our work going forward. Before July is over, you will see some of those. And so thanks for the idea. We also plan to do the same with landlords, right? You see some reluctance or some slow, whatever it is for landlords, not the important role that they play. We want to show landlords that this is an important way for them to get caught up on rent that they've had to go without the past year as well. So maybe testimonies from both of those points of view. So thank you very much for that.
Commissioner, I think that's a great idea. And I think it was Ronald Reagan that said the most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. There is sort of a stigma, I think, and I think testimonials are a good way to get around that. So we will explore that, and I thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions from my colleagues and no further comments from the panel, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate your hard work. You're volunteering to do a very, very good thing, and so we do not take that lightly. And based on Commissioner Thomas's comments, my mind is turning a little bit. We're going to work with staff and see what we can do, if anything, to help you all spread your message. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, members of the commission. We appreciate it.
All right. Attorney Butler.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second item on today's administrative agenda comes from docket number 2005-83A, and we will get a report or update from Director Boyd and Public Information Director Bachman on the Commission's public communications.
Good afternoon, afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. So staff, including the Public Information Director, myself and the General Counsel have worked on some social media content guidelines for staff to utilize when distributing public communications from the agency, on behalf of the agency, and Public Information Director Rob Bachman is prepared to give you a summary.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Following our meeting on June 17th, PSC staff has reviewed the social media policy for the agency. We have drafted and reviewed clarifications for all guidelines for content posted to official PSC social media pages and to our websites, ensuring that we are adhering to the Code of Judicial Conduct in all of our public communications. We will be providing a copy of that to all commissioners and to all staff this afternoon, so you'll be able to review that at that time. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. I know that some of this came out of a violation, arguably a violation or issue with violating the Code of Judicial Conduct. Do you know how many agencies outside of the judicial branch also follow the Code of Judicial Conduct?
It looks, based on our research, Mr. Chairman, we found 2 other agencies that, I wouldn't say agencies as a whole, but at least a portion, some of the employees have to adhere to the Code of Judicial Conduct. Yes, sir, outside of the judicial branch.
What agencies are those?
The Department of Employment and Workforce Appellate Panel and Workers' Compensation Commissioners.
Okay. I'll tell you, we just had a presentation about a great program that's happening throughout the state, and they're trying to get more and more people to apply so the funds can be distributed. And I know that we want to help, and it's a difficult place to be in when we have to make sure that our public communication does not violate the Code of Judicial Conduct, which sort of limits what we can say. Not sort of, it does limit what we can say on any platform. Is it, when you reviewed those other agencies, Workers' Comp or the Employee Workforce Appellate Division, what type of public communication programs did they have in place?
Well, we were informed that the Workers' Compensation Commission does not have engage in social media, and that we could not find any publications like our newsletter. I could not find either any specific social media platforms for the Department of Employment and Workforce Appellate Panel, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, what are you all's thoughts? You know, and I'm welcome to hear. I want to hear from the commissioners and the public information officer and our executive director. Is as much as we want to communicate and reach out to the public, is the juice worth the squeeze? If we could come or run afoul, I should say, of the CJC.
Well, I think Commission, first of all, under its statutory obligations, is obligated to provide notices, for example, in its rate proceedings, for example, under 58.5.240, that's its water and wastewater statute. You have to have a public hearing, and there are other rate case statutes and other statutes that require you to have hearings. For example, the most recently passed legislation in 2019, the Energy Freedom Act. And so that's in legislation. This agency, this body, the commissioners are responsible for impacting, or you have a impact on probably just about every South Carolinian, unlike the other two public bodies that I just mentioned. You could potentially impact their any household in this state's disposable income. So I think we are a little bit different. I think that based on your statutory obligations of providing notice, that as long as information that is provided to the public aligns with your obligation to provide the public with notice, and whereas 30 years ago, notice might have been provided one way, as we know, times have changed. So I think as long as our platforms are basically providing the information that is in notices or orders, that you all are bound, that you have an obligation to duties that we all have, but you all make the decisions, that information is provided to the public in a different way other than the traditional U.S. mail. I think if anything, you're carrying out your obligations. If the information pertains to what our obligations already are, to publicly notice hearings, to conduct hearings, to record, statutes specifically mention stenographers, you have to keep a record of those proceedings. And those who are impacted by your decisions, not just by our statute, but by the Administrative Procedures Act, have a right to know and a right to be engaged if they so choose. So, long story short, Mr. Chairman, I think that the social media platform, if people are more engaged, or those persons who receive information, digest it in other formats other than the traditional U.S. mail, and are linked somehow, are engaged through social media, that I think it's proper for the commission to continue to notice its hearings using more than one means to do so.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Caston.
I don't want to be parroting what you're saying, because I think you said what my general thoughts are. One, I am the last person you need to talk to about social media, how to do it, what to do, when to do it. That's nothing that I'm very good at. That said, if I understood you correctly, that whatever we are required, at a minimum, I guess, to post online, our website, are you saying that as much as practical or possible, that type information, we should use the social media as much as possible to do, just simply duplicate that?
Yes, sir, I am. Because I think that they're not just members of the public, but also other persons, for example, the media, who can use that information and disseminate it, just in case someone misses the information in his or her bill insert. So there are numerous ways that our duplicating the information can be helpful to the public in different formats. The same basic information, not the entire notice, but the fact that the commission is going to conduct a customer public hearing. Perhaps you missed it on the announcement on the radio station, but a journalist picked the article up, or picked the post, found the post, and wrote an article. That's another way to disseminate information that someone missed.
Okay, well, I too shared Chairman Williams' concern about all the potential landmines or pitfalls out there. But if we're talking about using another medium or other opportunities or avenues to do no more than we're allowed and that is on our website for public information, that makes sense. But I think anything beyond that probably puts us in territory you don't want to be.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions for commissioners? All right. Thank you for that presentation and update.
Yes, sir.
Attorney Butler.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Also under docket number 2005-83A, we are scheduled to have a discussion about practice and procedure in cases before the commission.
All right. So about 3 years ago, fellow commissioners, I was elected to the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. That puts me at about 35 months today. About 12 to 13 of those months, I was deployed. So I've been here about 23, 24 months. And in that time, I've learned about the commission. I had the opportunity to hear a few cases, and my background is the law, really focused on trial practice. And there were some things that I really didn't understand in my early days as a commissioner, and I began to ask questions, study, do research, and what I found is that a lot of my questions regarding practice and procedure were answered with this response: that's just the way we've always done it, or that's what the commission has always done. And that answer really never satisfied me. And I think we've reached a point where we just need to remind ourselves and remind the parties that present their cases before us that the commission is required to follow the law. That's obvious, I think. And in that, we're governed, or our rules are the South Carolina Rules of Evidence. So in matters that come before us, we have to make sure that we follow those rules ourselves and ensure that the parties that present cases before us follow those rules. Because if we don't do that, we run the risk of being arbitrary and capricious. And I know we don't want to do that. The parties that appear before us deserve a fair opportunity to present their case and consistent rulings by the commission. So just a friendly reminder to the commissioners and to the parties that appear before us that the South Carolina Rules of Evidence apply. I think one of my favorite books is a little South Carolina Trial Objections Manual written by the Honorable Timothy L. Brown, published by the South Carolina Bar, and he lists about 249 objections. And none of them state that the basis for the objection is that's not how the commission always has done things, or that's not how the court has done things. And so maybe that was acceptable at some point in time, but it's no longer acceptable. Questions, comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Belzer, then Commissioner Powers.
do we have any specific areas that we need to touch on that you're referring to?
I think off the top of my head, the comment or justification for the commission making a decision resting on that's the way we've always done it. I think that's one area. We've had several witnesses testify, provide testimony, and seemingly they're providing testimony as an expert, but I can't recall qualifying an expert. We've taken in the evidence what I would consider reports from experts, and I'm not sure if in no other area have I seen a expert's report entered into evidence. And so I've pressed the legal staff to find law, statute, regulation, case law to support some of the things that we've done, and I have not received anything as of yet. And I think that is because there's no support for it. I think I consider myself a newbie. I know I'm not as new as Commissioner Caston and Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Powers and Commissioner Thomas, but I just haven't seen that anywhere else. So I just think it's important for us to follow the rules. The rules are the rules, and I think it's important for us to do that. So those are some specific areas. If you have identified others, now's the time to discuss it, because again, commissioners, we're responsible for running this organization. It is on us. I happen to be the chair today, but that's not a permanent position. At some point in time, everyone in this room will be the chair. And so we need to make sure that we are good stewards of this organization. And a part of that is, in my opinion, following the rules.
Well, and as you noted, the regulation does state that we would follow the rules of evidence in South Carolina. And so you're just saying that, advising that we're going to adhere to that regulation and the rule, and by extension, the rules of evidence.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I think that's important. And some may say, well, why would you need to notify, or why would you need a refresher on something that's clearly written in your regulations? Well, I think it's always timely to have a revival and to remind yourself of your responsibility. And so just want to be fair, because quite frankly, if it is true that there's certain decisions or certain practices that the commission has allowed over time, it may be a shock to the body if we just start following the rules without notice to parties that appear before us, it may be a shock to commissioners. I'm just articulating my intent to follow the rules of evidence.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the points that I was thinking about was the one you made about the qualification of experts, and I know we deal with a lot of the same parties over and over in different, a lot of the same witnesses in different procedures and different hearings, and I know a lot of that they could stipulate whether or not it's an expert ahead of time, but I've never heard that, and I guess I kind of have wondered, is this just the way things have always been done and continue to be done? As a lawyer for so long, I can sit here during a hearing and I'm thinking, well, if I was a lawyer, the pitting one witness against another. I mean, different rules of evidence have popped in my head during that period of time, that short period of time that I've been listening to evidence and listening to witnesses. And if that's the way we're supposed to do it, I think certainly it is time for some sort of review as to that, and an adaptation of our procedure that fits those rules of evidence. In private practice, Commissioner Cass and I were talking one day, he asked me about Sir rebuttal. At 45 years of practicing law, I can't say that I've ever dealt with Sir rebuttal, maybe once. And it's just something here that seems to be routine. So a lot of it's a learning process for me.
Well, not only you, for me, and I think for all of us here, at one time I was young and ambitious and believed I could change the world with the flip of a switch. Tom has taught me that the world doesn't work that way. So what we're trying to do here, I don't think is going to be completed overnight, but I think we have to commit ourselves to improving day by day. And a part of that is identifying areas of improvement, like being consistent with the South Carolina rules of evidence. And I welcome the support and input and participation of all my fellow commissioners. If you know, I know that I'm the chair and I have the gavel, but you know, all of us are duly elected and have the rights and privileges to make our voice heard. And so, if there are things that we need to address, to improve, to make this organization better, I'm open to hear it. Commissioner Caston.
Chairman Williams, thank you. Being not only a newbie, but a non-attorney, I want to thank my good friend, Commissioner Powers, because I've asked him, he may not call them dumb questions out loud, but I've asked him many things for feedback, honest feedback, and he's always provided that, and it's been very useful. So I appreciate your comments. I appreciate what you're wanting to do, because I want to make the best decisions I can based on fact and truth. And understanding the rules, I think, is pretty important there. So I applaud the effort and do all I can to honor that. Thank you.
All right. If there's Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and jumping on what Commissioner Caston just now said, if there's anything that I can do personally to help me become more familiar with what I should be doing, I would love to be told. You know, is there something you can read? You mentioned a book, and maybe that's the right one, or maybe it's a different one. I don't know, but anything I can do to become better educated, I would appreciate that. And just one other question or thought, I guess you'd say. Commissioner Powers mentioned the SIR rebuttal testimony, and I've seen a little bit of back and forth about, you know, what comes in and what can be part of the SIR rebuttal testimony. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but that perhaps is something that needs clarification in the way things are presented here. That's just kind of off the top of my head thought. And basically, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Powers, Commissioner Caston, Commissioner Vice Chair Belzer, Commissioner Williams.
Chairman Williams, thank you. I know I can count on you to, as another non-attorney, to help us. I just did a little Google search, and it appears that the con guide is about 358 pages. So I look forward to the attorney's help as we aid you all in following that guidance.
I appreciate the kind words, and what I will say is I accept that challenge, and I think is my responsibility, as well as my fellow members of the bar, to uphold the standard. We all swore oath. I think there's 7 disciplines that qualifies you to serve as a commissioner, and so when I have some engineering questions or accounting questions or some planning questions, I'm definitely going to lean on you all. And you all should be able to lean on the lawyers to give you insight or their opinion on the rules and how they should be applied. And there should be a level of consistency there. And I've demanded a lot of our, I call it our law practice, our legal office. And we've recruited some strong lawyers. And I would encourage you to talk to the lawyers. I had a really good conversation with one of our new hires, Attorney Sharon Besley, and I think that if you want to know how to do it right, that's one you can drop by and see. I feel confident in that, and as I do in all of our attorneys. So, you know, one thing I appreciate about the newer commissioners is that you embrace the thought that just because we've always done something a certain way doesn't necessarily mean we've been doing it the right way. And I don't think as a commission, I don't think we can be afraid to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask, are we doing this the right way? And I appreciate your support in my effort to help make sure we're doing it as such. So thank you all. Anything else? Commissioner Caston?
I wanted to kind of, well, restate something you said and clarify something. One is our attorneys have really been gracious and kind enough not to be mean to me at times when I've annoyed the dickens out of them. And I know I have, and I appreciate that. So I agree. I go to them often. Along Commissioner Williams' thoughts on how much there is to know in this kind of stuff, and I do often come to not only staff attorneys, but the attorneys in the commission, and I do want your feedback. But one thing I can tell you, and you've probably figured out now, is that when it comes to whatever the law says or the regulation says, I can read it probably just as well as you can read it. Now, what I tend to do is, it's what it says to me. So that's kind of how I am. And I know you're that way too, and we've had some good discussions, and that's what I really like, because I need and I appreciate the legal guidance we get. But sometimes if I read it that way, you're going to have to convince me that I'm wrong. And you do a good job of debating that, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. If there's nothing else from the commissioners, Attorney Butler.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We can now move, with your permission, into the utilities agenda. The first three items are telecom cases, telecom matters to be decided. Item number one comes to us from docket number 1994-718C. And before the commission is a request from CenturyLink Communications for waiver of publication requirements and for approval of the addition of several new doing business as designations.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Powers.
thank you, sir. I would recommend and move that the commission approve the request of CenturyLink Communications LLC for waiver of publication requirements and for approval addition of new doing business as designations as follows: CenturyLink Communications LLC doing business as Lumen, CenturyLink Communications LLC doing business as Lumen Technologies, and CenturyLink Communications LLC doing business as Lumen Technologies Group. I would so move.
Hearing Commissioner Powers' motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Starting with District 1, Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer.
Aye.
Commissioner Caston.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Item number two is docket number 2004-115C. This is the request of DCT Telecom Group Incorporated to amend its certificate to read DCT Telecom Group LLC.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Powers.
thank you. I move that the commission approve the request of DCT Telecom Group Incorporated to amend its certificate of public convenience and necessity to read DCT Telecom Group LLC.
Hearing Commissioner Powers' motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll start voting with District 1, Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Caston.
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
I vote aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Item number three on the utilities agenda is from docket number 2013-244C. This is a request of TDS Telecommunications Corporation for confidential treatment of its FCC reporting requirements and certifications.
Is there a motion?
Chairman Williams.
Commissioner Williams, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. I move that the commission grant the request of TDS Telecommunications Corporation for confidential treatment of its FCC reporting requirements and certifications.
Hearing Commissioner Williams' motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote, starting with Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer. Commissioner Caston.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin.
Aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Item number 4 is from docket number 2006-401G. This is the request for consideration of Piedmont Natural Gas Company Incorporated's request for approval of its GCRM, or Gas Cost Recovery Mechanism, number 152.
Is there a motion?
Chairman Williams.
Commissioner Caston.
Thank you. I move that the commission approve Piedmont Natural Gas Company's GCRM-152, effective with the first billing cycle in July 2021. The Office of Regulatory Staff recommends approval. Piedmont's benchmark cost of gas that Piedmont must pay has increased from $2 to $3 per decatherm. The typical residential customer using 100 therms in a month would see an increase in their bill from $90.11 to $100.18, which is an increase of $10.18. This change results in an increase of 0.10177 per therm for sales rate schedules 201, 202, 242, 252, 203, and 204, and an increase of 0.00177 per therm for transportation rate schedules 213 and 214. I so move.
Hearing Commissioner Caston's motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote, starting with Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Caston.
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
Aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, other members of the commission, with regard to item number 5 in docket number 2021-185E, we have a request from the Office of Regulatory Staff to carry this matter over so that they may do some discovery and further study the application. So staff recommends carrying over number 5.
Item 5 is carried over.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to item number 6. This particular item, we have a motion of Duke Energy Carolinas LLC and Duke Energy Progress LLC to withdraw Rebecca J. Doolin, Esquire, as counsel of record for those two companies effective July 1st, 2021 in the following dockets: 1989 499E, 1995 1192E, 2005 385E, 2006 224E, 2006 268E, 2006 270E, 2011 150E, 2013 472E, 2014 246E, 2015 95E, 2015 96E, 2015 362E, 2017 281E, 2017 332E, 2018 202E, 2018 320E, 2019 232A, 2019 233A, 2019 182E, 2019 207E, 2019 208E, 2019 210E, 2019 211E, 2019 224E, 2019 225E, 2019 326E, 2019 365E, 2020 106A, 2020 220A, 2020 221A, 2020 147E, 2020 218E, 2020 242E, 2020 264E, 2020 265E, 2020 263E, 2021 66A, 2021 1E, 2021 3E, 2021 76E, 2021 89E, 2021 95E, and 2021 95E. And I would note that there was an objection raised in 2020 218E. However, the person that objected did this morning move to close their docket. So, but that was the only one that we heard any response from.
Restate this one. You said 150. So restate 2018, 158. And this one.
Okay. All right. Director Boyd has asked me to restate two dockets, 2018 158E and also 2021 90E. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Attorney Butler, question of clarification. The party moving to object to Ms. Doolin's motion to withdraw.
Yes, sir.
Did I understand you correctly to say that they moved to close their case, if you will, their docket?
Yes, sir. That was the only case that that particular person participated in. And he has moved as of this morning. Of course, that's not before the commission, but he has moved as of this morning to close his case, which was a complaint matter.
Right. So it's not closed yet, though. It's still
No,
open.
ma'am.
Right.
No, sir. Excuse me. It has not.
Okay. Just wanted to note that for the record. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Urban.
I move the commission grant the motion of Duke Energy Carolinas LLC and Duke Energy Progress LLC to withdraw Rebecca J. Doolin Esquire as counsel of record for the companies and the docket numbers listed by Mr. Butler, effective July 1, 2021. So moved.
Hearing Commissioner Urban's motion, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote, starting with Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye, and I'm not sure where Ms. Doolin, what her new role is going to be or where she's going, but I do wish her well.
Commissioner Caston.
Aye.
Commissioner Urban.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
I vote aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. I also would like to wish Ms. Doolin well in her new endeavor, whatever that may be. I appreciate your professional practice before the commission while you were in your former role. Attorney Butler.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That does complete the utilities agenda for this business meeting. Moving on to the motor carrier agenda items. Staff would recommend that the commission take items 1 through 8 together, and I will briefly go through those. Those are applications for Class C certificates. First one, number 1, is docket number 2021-204T, application of Pegasus Charter Services, LLC, for a Class C charter certificate. Item 2 is docket number 2021-205T, the application of Coastal Tours Enterprises, Incorporated. Item number 3 is docket number 2021-206T, application of Jessica Jackson for a Class C taxi certificate. Item 4 is docket number 2021-207T, the application of VIP Transportation LLC, DBA VIP Transportation for Class C taxi certificate. Item 5 is docket number 2021-212T. It's the application of Sincere Love Transportation LLC for Class C non-emergency certificate. Item 6 is the application of DeFusky Transit LLC for Class C charter certificate. Item 7 is docket number 2021-208T, application of Grandeur Transport and Courier LLC for a Class C non-emergency certificate. And finally, we have number 8, docket number 2021-216T, which is the application of Island Essentials LLC for a Class C charter certificate.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, sir. I would move that the applications for Class C certificates as requested in items 1 through 8 be approved as described by Mr. Butler.
Hearing Commissioner Powers' motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote, starting with District 1, Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Caston.
Aye.
Commissioner Urban.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Powers,
I vote aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Item number 9 is in docket number 2021-136T. This is the application for Class E Household Goods Certificate of Sullivan Junk and Moving LLC, DBA College Hunks Moving. And Mr. Chairman, as I understand it, you were on leave during that hearing.
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
As such, I'm recusing myself and will not vote. Is there a motion?
Chairman Williams.
Commissioner Williams, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. I move that the commission grant the application of Sullivan Junk and Moving LLC, doing business as College Hunks Moving, for a Class E household goods certificate.
Hearing Commissioner Williams' motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote, starting with District 1, Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Caston,
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, and other members of the commission, staff would recommend that items number 10 and 11 be taken together, and there are two of them. We have the request for exemption from Regulation 103-153, first of Merit Transport Incorporated, and the second one is Greenville Executive Limo Service, LLC, DBA Long Boy Limo. And both of these have asked for exemption from the commission's placard regulation of 103-153.
Is there a motion?
Chairman Williams.
Commissioner Caston.
I move that the commission hold these requests for waiver in abeyance at this time, and that the commission seek an opinion on these requests from the Office of Regulatory Staff, similar to that received from the ORS in a letter dated June 18th, 2020, that references dockets 1994-354T and 2020-117T. I so move.
Hearing Commissioner Caston's motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote, starting with District 1, Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Caston,
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Powers,
Aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, other members of the commission, we would request also that item numbers 12 and 13 be taken together. There are two items. Number 12 is docket number 2021-82T, and there's a request from Rush Hour Logistics LLC for an extension of time until December 31st, 2021 to comply with commission rules and regulations. We also have number 13, docket number 2021-86T. This is the request of Serenity Guided Care LLC, DBA Serenity Guided Transport, for an extension of time until July 30, 2021 to comply with commission rules and regulations.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
Chairman Williams.
Commissioner Williams, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I move that the commission approve the requested extensions of time in items number 12 and 13 as stated by Mr. Butler.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote, starting with District 1, Commissioner Williams,
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Belzer,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Caston,
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Powers,
I vote aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Item number 14 is docket number 1991-266T. We have a request of Camelot Limousine LLC to amend its Class C charter certificate number 6030-C to read 15 passengers.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Thomas.
I move that the commission grant the request of Camelot Limousine LLC to amend its Class C charter certificate number 6030-C to read 15 passengers. So moved.
Hearing Commissioner Thomas's motion, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote, starting with District 1.
Aye.
Vice Chair Belzer,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Caston,
Aye.
Commissioner Urban,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Powers,
I vote aye.
Chairman Williams votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that does complete the motor carrier agenda. As I recall, we do have a special commission business meeting scheduled for today at 2 p.m. also.
All right. There's a point of clarification I need to make. I am recused on item 9, but I voted for it. So that vote will not count as I am recused. I think that's the only corrections we need to make. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we are adjourned until the 2 p.m. Meeting, the 2 p.m. meeting.